Hey Bodhana, what time is it?
It's time for the ChessKid Youth Championships 2026.
Welcome back, everyone, to the 2026 ChessKid Youth Championship. If you don't know why I'm welcoming you back, it's because Group A happened earlier today. It is time for Group B, the other half of our field. 6 kids under the age of 13. They're probably better than you. They're definitely better than me. And I'm here with my co-host, Grandmaster Arturs Naiksons. Arturs, welcome back.
Yeah, hey Mike, we already had one group earlier today. It was a lot of fun. We had also some dramas in the time scrambles, and it just shows that these kids are incredibly talented, very difficult to predict results. And I'm just hoping that the second group is going to deliver the same amount of action, if not even more.
I hope so. Let's take a look at the format of what we're going to see this afternoon. We're going to have 12 players. We only have 6 playing. Now we had 6 play earlier. They're going to play a double round robin. Of course, you don't play yourself. That would make no sense. So you're going to play the other 5 players twice each in a time control of 3+1. As Archer said, anything can happen. Remember, we had some kids down 2 queens pulling out draws earlier today. The top 2 advance on to play in the knockout portion tomorrow. The goal is to finish in the top 2. And of course, they are playing for more than just prestige, although they are competing on an international stage. Archers, what else are they playing for?
They're playing for a prize pool of $5,000 US, and the first prize winner is going to walk away with a hefty $1,500 US. 1,000 for the second place, but I think which is also quite important thing is that all of the kids, all of the participants who are taking their part in this tournament, they are getting rewarded with some prize money, and also for some of them this might be their very first entry to the global stage.
Absolutely. And 2 kids advanced earlier today. Supratit Banerjee and Ashwant Kaushik are both guaranteed at least that third place prize of $500. They're going for the big prize of $1,500, but let's focus on the 6 kids that we're going to see in this Group B. We're going to go ahead and slide them on the screen. And there we see our round 1 pairings. We've got Bodhana Sivanandan, the world's youngest ever WIM. She's the one that led off the show, after all, as you saw there, playing against Arav Sabalia, our FIDE master from India. Arav's got a very active Instagram page, so go check that out. We've also got our Australian friend returning from last year. Recall that FIDE master Reyaansh Chakrabarti actually made it to the Sunday knockout last year, and he's playing not from his home turf, he's playing from the Isle of Wight against Ethan Guo, FIDE master from USA. And then finishing it out, we've got another FIDE master, Linshi Zhu. We've actually got some interviews during the break we're going to show with Linshi. He's a pretty cool kid from New York City, against Hardy Gu. Hardy Gu just got his national master title. He's exactly 2,200, according to the U.S. Chess Federation. Grew up in West Virginia and now lives in the great state of Illinois. So those are our 6 players that we're going to see, and I can't wait to see 10 fighting games from all of them, Arturs.
Yeah, absolutely. So during the first group tournament, we could spot that some of the openings were more popular than others. So one of them was the Reddy opening. We could see it being employed more than once. Also, we saw some Sicilians. At the very beginning, some players were choosing the Caracan. At some point later, it just disappeared. So if I would have to ask you, Mike, what would be your guess? What are going to be the most popular openings, at least in this group?
Well, guess what? I've actually never seen most of these kids play except for Bodhana. I did have the pleasure is the wrong word. I did have the nervousness of playing Bodhana in London. So I kind of know what she plays against the Perts. She plays very classically H3 system. She plays A4 to prevent my B5. Recall that in London, by the way, she beat Danny Wrench in a game. And then she went on to play against Gotham Chess as well. I don't know if I should be revealing the score. Gotham's a friend of mine. Let's just say it was very favorable to Bodhana. She also beat some English Premiership football players. So anyway, if you want to know how I did against Bodhana, I think we've got a video of that coming up during one of the breaks. So I actually don't know, but I know Bodhana's going to play very classically. Do you have any intel on these players? Actually, the games are getting going, so your intel might be a little late if we talk about that because we have moves on the board.
And it's the London system, the famous or infamous London system. It's loved or arcade at top levels. You can speak many times about it, but it's here that this is what Bodhana plays, and I think it's a purely symbolic opening, at least for the very first game. Ray, for the moment, is late for his game against Guo. We're going to see if he's going to show up. And then we have Zhu against Gu. What it is some sort of, again, ready opening with some kings in and attack vibes. There you go.
Yeah, maybe the kids watch the Group A action. For those who were not here for Group A, we had 3 kids, 2 French players, and Super Teat, our first place finisher, all playing the King's Indian attack. But Bodhana is representing London well by playing the London system. Now, she played E4 against me. She played D4 here, so she's already got a pretty wide-ranging repertoire. I think she's got a ChessKid t-shirt on, so she's really representing well. And in fact, she's a new ChessKid ambassador. She's sitting in a secret lab chair that one of the players used at the Speed Chess Championship finals in London. So she has every accoutrement that a chess player could have. She's got the shirt, she's got the opening name, she's got the secret lab chair. But Archers, what about the chess? She's got an outpost on B5. That's not much insight. What else you got for us?
And she plays the London, of course. So maybe we could go back a couple of moves and see what are the nuances and tricks of the opening phase. Obviously, the London opening or the London system is a very popular weapon at all levels, but it started to get really popular around whichever year it was, 2016 maybe or so, when Magnus Carlsen started to employ it at the highest level. And due to its simplicity that White can play it pretty much against everything ever since, of course, it became very popular. So I'm going to go back now to the very first beginning. D4, knight f6, knight f3. This is actually my preferred way to play the London system. There's some reasons why I think that knight f3 is more accurate than bishop f4. Maybe it's going to be a discussion for another time. C3, E3, and at some point, this knight h5, Mike, this is one of the most annoying approaches from Black's perspective. He's trying to kill off the Daxwa bishop for White as quickly as he can.
Yeah, I mean, that bishop really annoys me in the London. So even if you spend 3 tempos, tempi, to get rid of it, I totally get what you're saying. The heart and soul of the position is gone. So I kind of like this approach. I'm kind of thinking I might adopt it. And you know what? I'm going to do whatever Amon Hambleton tells me to do, because he just released his London system course on Chessable. And he is kind of, the master at that. But a big advantage here by Arav Sabalia has been taken over. What exactly denotes this advantage? Is it the fact that the bishop pair means more than the knights? I mean, the position is closed. We're taught that the knights are supposed to be okay against the bishops.
I think the actual problem for White is this open h file, which is maybe not yet open, but it's about to open up. And exactly, our rough plays f4. And I think, Mike, the big threat for Black is to play h5, take rook takes on h5, and then double the rooks at the h file, because it might seem that the queens are off the board, and this means that White king is no danger. But if you double the rooks at h file, suddenly this king on g1 might be feeling a lot of heat. But no, Araf instead plays c5, so that's very nice display of his playing style here. So he's playing all over the board. And Bodhana at the moment, I think she is slightly being pressed here.
Yeah, I agree. Now, if I was her, I'd keep that knight on h2 just in case h5 happens. And sorry, I was just following up here. We do have one game that is yet to start. Just want to update the audience on exactly what's going on. Our Australian friend, FIDE Master Reyaansh Chakrabarti, is playing in Isle of Wight. He's playing many, many time zones away. Unfortunately, our reporter on the ground in Isle of Wight, aka his dad, has told us there was a massive power cut affecting most of the island. Now, there was also one 11 days ago, and somebody said they saw a green flash. So I don't know what's going on in the Isle of Wight, but they're having some power issues. Reyaansh could not finish his game in time. He's going to try to join us late. A couple of kids may end up getting forfeit wins, but that is the news. That is the pressing news. Usually I break the pressing news on site, but this time it was Reyaansh's dad. So we wish him the best. But anyway, back to the games that are in progress. Do you want to look at the other game we've not talked about yet, just to sort of go around the horn here in round one?
Absolutely. Let's switch to that. And I also hope that Ray is going to make it in time, if not for this game, then for the other games. I think for this game, he is already forfeited, but obviously there's more games to be fought out. And here we are following the game of Lin Shizhu against Hardy Gu. So White just played a 4, and the obvious question is what happens if White pushes e5? Is there a fork idea at some point? Apparently not, because black can still play bishop c5, target the knight on e3, so black at least is not losing the piece. And Lynchy just went for that, and now I suppose something like queen e2. White still keeps at least visually the better chances. But what I think is very important, Mike, in this position, that both players already are quite significantly in a time scramble.
Yeah, they certainly are. And by the way, don't believe, I guess Hardy's rating is not showing up on screen, but for those of you following this in chess.com/events, Hardy's just a little bit newer to chess.com. That 1500 rating, not accurate at all. Hardy actually became a national master in the same tournament that he beat Grandmaster Alex Lenderman in. So if you can beat Lenderman in a classical game, you are worthy of playing in our tournament for sure. That's how they got here. But absolutely, there's going to be some problems because Lynchy is already down to 20 seconds. Hardy has 30 seconds, and there's still so much happening on the chessboard here. Pawns are coming off the board, positions opening up. Now, if those white pawns get mobile, white's going to be better, but black temporarily does have a blockade in the computer with that blue arrow. Blue arrow means best move, unequivocally queen c2, and it was found.
Yeah, it was fun, and also I'm amazed by the speed of both players, how quickly they spotted these tactics a couple of moves ago. But let's just follow the action what we have here. White at the moment has an extra pawn. So I think that also for a time scramble, it's much easier to go for the attack. And this is exactly what both players are trying to do. Rook f5. If I was playing with white, I would try to organize some counterattack against the pawn on g2. Both players are already below 20-second mark here.
Yeah, and speaking of other time scrambles, a reporter on the ground in Isle of Wight, aka Reyaansh's dad, says that his over-the-board game has ended. So we're putting him on a helicopter to Portsmouth. No, he's going to rush back to his hotel room, certainly, and he's going to try to play our event. Maybe he's only going to miss one round, maybe no rounds at all. So Reyaansh, I hope that you run and you make your airline connection. I hope that you're able to play as many games as possible. So we got a rook and pawn game. All rook and pawn games are drawn unless they aren't archers. This one, though, does look drawn, but black has the better side of the draw.
It's very tricky. I mean, normally white should be pretty safe, and at the moment they're not making pretty big mistakes, but these kids, they don't really like to make quick draws. They're fighting it out until the very end. And
We've got big action.
Say that, let's just follow it.
Yeah, sorry, we're not going to switch over because the game ended, but Bodhana was worse. She ended up winning a piece and then making a fork. She pulls a rabbit out of a hat, and she wins her first game against Arav Sabalia. Arav actually has the highest chess.com blitz rating of anybody in the event, but 10-year-old Bodhana, the youngest ever woman to beat a grandmaster in a classical game, wins her game today. Now, black is making some progress here, but wait, we're going to have almost for Bobby Fischer endgame. It's a rook pawn. It's yeah, so it should be a draw because the black is so far away.
Wow, what a calculation by Lynchy here. I mean, to calculate this on seconds, that you're going to be able to reach this theoretical draw in endgame because black queen at first, that is very, very impressive here.
Yeah, very well done to analyze that. And actually, it looked like Hardy was going to play queen versus queen, which would only have helped Reyaansh, right? Reyaansh is rushing back to his computer. So unfortunately for Reyaansh, they only played a couple of moves of queen versus queen. Let's take a look at that opening round standings there. So we can see Bodhana was the only one to get a natural win, but a draw between Lynchy and Hardy. We do have 3 Americans playing, so we're going to have a lot of country v country matchups. And then Reyaansh did not make his game, as we mentioned. He's probably rushing back right now. But I believe his opponent should get a forfeit win. And his opponent would have been, I guess, Ethan Guo. So we might need to update this. I think we were maybe officially trying to make sure it was a forfeit. But Ethan should have a point. I will make sure our Game Ops team confirms that because they're the voice of truth, not me. And oh my goodness, Ethan Guo definitely watched the French kids play this morning because he's playing the exact system that Luca Protopopescu was playing, the double fianchetto King's Indian attack.
And also, I'm seeing some kind of a Karakan on the board, so definitely the kids at this age, they have the same taste, at least chess prodigies, because the King's Indian attack with Reti and the Karakan, this is also what we're witnessing in the first group. Now it's the same story all over again. Maybe, I don't know, maybe let's just go to watch the game on full screen of Ethan against Lynchy and see where it's going to take us. We have pretty much no trades being done. About 11 moves have been made, and the position is very flexible. It seems that white is setting up some kind of a hedgehog, or is it actually a hippo position technically? No, I don't think it's really a hippo, because for hippo you need a pawn on e3 and then knight on e2. But what is quite characteristic for hedgehog or hippo is the flexibility, and I think this is what apparently Ethan likes.
Yeah, break out your zoology. Could have been a cow, I guess. I know somebody would make some content out of it if it was. But Linji's playing a little bit slow, just like his opening round game. That might just be his normal MO. I'm not exactly sure, but he's a New York City kid. He probably plays in the park, probably plays at the chess forum, so he can turn on the afterburners when he needs to. We're going to get to know a little bit more about him at the break. We've got a couple of interviews with him. But this is the first natural game from Ethan Guo. Ethan got to kind of sit on the sidelines and watch that opening round. So I'm going to guess these kids have probably played at some point IRL. Ethan is the oldest kid in our field. This is an under 13 event. He's actually 13, but he turned 13 after January 1st, and that was the cutoff date for ages. So Ethan was just able to get in there. He's 13 years and 1 month old. Linji is 12, and the knight goes backward. I'm always suspicious of these backward knight moves. What is the deal there with knight b8?
Yeah, I think this is quite characteristic move for several openings, meaning the black knight on d7 is not standing very well, and that's why Lynchy says that, okay, the knight on d7 is not doing anything, let me just rearrange it. But also, Ethan's idea of knight e5, I really like it, Mike, because it opens you path for the pawns. White is looking in the future for moves like king h2, f4, maybe g4. I'm not really sure about e5. The rook could go to f1, rook e1. And at the same time, for Lynchy, it's not so clear what black exactly is supposed to do, because you need to have some kind of active play. You do not have c4. And I think this is exactly, Mike, why he played rook b8, because he wants to play c4. And if b takes on c4, there's going to be some tricks with bishop takes on f2 and d takes on c4. I suppose there's some attack on opponent e4, but now that I'm looking, I don't really see anything. And that's why, of course, the relation bar favors this very much in favor of white.
King h2 is a very deft move, just making no progress in the position, getting your king off of the same diagonal. And of course, the players can't hear Arturs, but they sometimes think like Arturs. And the bishop takes f2 ideas are completely off the board. But look what Lynchy does. He just toggles his bishop back. Now, the same tactics are not in play, but the bishop is spying the king right there. The bishop's going back and forth, and at least giving the king some nervous energy. Okay, bishop a3, a lot of interesting bishop toggles here.
I slightly do not like this move, but of course it's a very juicy move because you pin a pawn on c5 and also the rook on f8 is under attack. But finally here comes the f4 move that Ethan probably should have done it a move before. And I have a feeling, Mike, that at some point white will have to play e5 to lock the position, because it gives you the vibes of the kings in an attack. And also in Reti, very often you close the center to start a successful flank attack, because if you want to start a flank attack, black might organize a counter strike in the center. So that's why you want to keep things closed. But it looks like Ethan has not yet decided.
Well, while you drop some knowledge on the position, and before we get into time pressure, let's drop some knowledge on Ethan Guo. He's got something going for him here. He shares the same favorite subject in school as the winner of our Group A did. Super Teat, I believe, mentioned that his favorite subject is history, and that is the same for Ethan Guo. So he's hoping that history repeats itself and that he's able to finish first place and advance to tomorrow. I should also mention that Arav Sabalia mentioned history as his favorite subject. So we sometimes do these events and we just assume all the kids are going to pick math or maths to make Bodhana happy. Don't forget our English friends. They like to add that S in there. But history is the favorite subject of 3 of our 12 kids playing this afternoon. I find that pretty interesting. Arturs, do you teach your students any chess history or only actual chess knowledge?
No, not really chess history, but I'm quite surprised about the choice that history is such a favorite subject at school for so many kids. Math, of course. I mean, very often for many chess kids, math exactly is where they excel. Also, I can relate to this myself. This was my absolute favorite subject in school, but history, at least for me personally, no, I don't think so. So probably I would say something like music or sports. But yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, let's bid this game history for just a moment, because Arav Sabalia has opened up a massive advantage over Hardy Goo. He's got his pawn rolling down the board on c6. If we're going to switch over to that game, we're going to see how does Hardy fight against this pawn coming down the board on c6. We could even go to the 3-board view if we need to. There we go. There's the game. And oh boy, yep, that pawn is going downtown Julie Brown. Shout out to MTV. Remember, it used to show music videos. Now it barely exists. But that pawn is just unstoppable, combined with the 2 bishops. And it's looking very good for Arav Sabalia to avenge his first round loss. There you go. He gets the W. Only 1 game's remaining. Reyaansh is still running back to his board. We can only imagine in Isle of Wight. Big swing right here.
Something just happened there. Apparently, bishop takes on h6 was a very big blunder. I'm just going to go very quickly back to this moment. Bishop takes on h6. Where was the miss? g5 was apparently trapping the bishop on h6, but obviously players were so low time on the clock that they did not spot this.
Yeah, that's going to be a theme today. I think Linji might want to play a little bit faster, but he has made a big comeback in the game. He had a wall of pawns, which have been slightly punctured, but his knight gets in the game. And actually, the white pawns are guarding black's king. White would like some of those lines to be open, but they're blocked by pawns. And now all the black pieces are invading. That's a fork. Can't take the bishop because your rook is hanging, but maybe you just keep on the attack. I love it. F3, play F2. Why not? Okay, just take
the rook on B8. Rook on B8 was under attack. Oh,
yep.
My goodness.
Nice spot. Should have been captured. And Linji wins, I believe, by resignation. I show that Ethan had a little bit of time left, but maybe by resignation there. So, wow, a little shake of the head by Linji. I hope he knows he's got to play a little faster. You can see his second camera there, that tripod iPhone. I like that setup. He's playing in a solitary confinement room of all white. But there's our scores, and that's with the updated forfeit win there. Bodhana does get that point. So she's on 2 out of 2. Linji has 1.5. Arav and Ethan with 1. Hardy with 1/2. And Reyaansh, I hope he plays this round. I know he's running. Please reserve an elevator for him for his hotel room. He's got to get up there and play.
Actually, we have an update that he will start from round 3. Ray is officially here, so he's giving a bit of a bonus for all the other participants, and I'm hoping that he's going to succeed. What kind of comeback it would be for him to miss the first 2 round games and still qualify for the knockout?
Yeah, and don't forget, he still controls his own destiny. I mean, I know it's unlikely to go 8-0, but 8 points clearly qualifies. 7 pretty much will always qualify. And I believe in our opening segment, didn't 5.5 go to a tiebreak? Or was it 6?
I think it was 5.5. I think it was +1, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Yeah, that might be right. I think it was +1. So even 5.5 got you to a tiebreak, which means, it's not impossible to win 5.5 out of 8. So that's like a +3 or something score. So glad to have him in the tournament. We're now at full field. Australia is on the board. Reyaansh says that besides playing chess, he likes to play Australian handball. That's not Olympic handball. Apparently, that's where you actually throw a ball against a wall. Whereas Olympic handball, you actually throw it into a net. Guys, please don't ask me any handball questions in chat, okay? That is a deep as dive as I will ever do about handball. I cannot name one famous handball player, but hopefully Reyaansh is going to play chess and then play handball afterward and release some nervous energy. Okay, Reyaansh has just been told by my sideline reporter, Reyaansh will play this round. We are at a full field of 6 players here in the 2026 ChessKid Youth Championship.
All right, so the round is about to start. I'm going to guess one thing. Definitely there's going to be at least 1 Pretty, 1 Caracan, and 1 Sicilian. What do you think?
I think so, and I think there's going to be at least 1 mention of a chessable course because the kids seem to be playing either your chessable course, my chessable course, Maurice Ashley, Amon Hambleton. Okay, here we go. First person to make a chessable
I was this close. It was a Caracan, it was a Sicilian, and almost a Reti opening. No, it was knight f3 and d4. I almost made it.
Hardy Goo, though, kind of a London system type setup, right? I mean, against a Queen's Indian, but still, I don't know if we want to count that. But yeah, the Gotham chessification of the world continues, where the Caro-Kann has become the most popular opening. If you were a kid in the 1980s, as I was, you were not playing the Caro-Kann, full stop. Okay, nobody played it. We all played open chess, but we live in a different world. What can I say? All right, I think we should focus on the left game there. Because Reyaansh is making his entree into the tournament. There we see him on camera. I believe I'm gonna give a shout out to, I think Dad, might have been Mom, but somebody was helping set up all the tech, making sure he had a sandwich or some food. So Reyaansh's parents, you win Parent of the Year for getting him there and getting him ready to play these games.
I feel I will have definitely one question to Reyaansh if he's gonna make it to the knockouts, because I'm seeing this highly topical line in the Najdorf. And I always wondered what exactly is the idea of h4, because if you would go back to this position after knight e4, sorry, instead of bishop e2 here, there's all kinds of moves for white. You could play f3, f4, you could play g3, h3, even h4, a3, a4, bishop d2, bishop e3, bishop g5, bishop e2, bishop d3, bishop c4, rook g1, rook b1, etc. And I once asked a famous Russian grandmaster, so what is the idea of h4? Why do you play h4 here? Because me being a grandmaster, I do not understand it. And he said to me wise words: nobody really knows, but in the end, it somehow works.
I love how you just went full Hikaru there with all of those arrows. This brings to mind something interesting. There's a fantastic article on Chess.com written about 3 or 4 years ago by Gregory Serper, where he talks about how Mikhail Tal used to love to sack the H-pawn. He's putting it out there. So the queen on D8 and the bishop on E7 will be tempted to capture and release the attack. Okay, that's not going to happen in this game. But if anybody in chat wants to go find the article on Gregory Serper's analysis of Mikhail Tal sacking the H-pawn in such positions, it is a really cool, sort of culmination of a lot of different games. Anyway, I don't know if it's an explanation, but, in as much as we can explain it, that's my explanation.
All right, and going back to chess, as you can see here, white has a pretty commanding lead. So Reyaansh is doing well after the opening phase. G4 is just played. And I think the idea for G4 is to play G5, get rid of the knight on F6 and land the knight on D5. And that's why, of course, Araf immediately senses the danger that he has to get rid of the knight on C3 by pushing B4, knight E5. By the way, in case you're wondering why black did not collect a pawn on G4, these kids, they're so good that for them, sacrificing a pawn is just a no-brainer, obviously. And the black king is in the center, and that's why both players perfectly and correctly estimated that accepting the pawn on G4 is very dangerous.
Yeah, and if you sack a pawn but cause your opponent a lot of time where he has to defend against your threats, I don't know what the math is, but one pawn might be worth 30, 45 seconds in a 3+1 game. In fact, I'm not the only one out there to have thought of the idea of an engine evaluation also taking into account the clock times. I think some people have invented that, but nobody's perfected it. But there is an amount of time that a pawn is worth in a blitz game. This looks, I would rather sack the pawn and get the extra 30 seconds and be the attacker in most cases. But here comes the wall of pawns from Reyaansh.
Yeah, now for Araf, it's very difficult to make a good choice because in a bad position, there's no good choices. He plays rook c8 and tries his chances with the counterattack. The pawn on c2 would be hit. Rook d2, easy response by the Australian defense. And also for black, the problem is if he casts a short mic, it doesn't really mean the king is in the safety because white can always rip apart his defenses by playing f6. So that's why queen c5 is perfectly understandable. At least black wants to get the queen off the board.
Yeah, and by the way, another little deep dive into the world of Ara. First of all, he likes table tennis, as did pretty much all the kids in our group day, but he also likes to play Avalon, just like Fabiano Caruana does. And right now, it kind of looks like Morgana is Reyaansh, or I don't know. For those of you that play Avalon, did my story make sense? I'm really not too sure. But anyway, great entree from Reyaansh. I'm a little bit worried about him being too tired. Playing a couple, I think he might have played 2 games today in Isle of Wight, and now he has to play this in the evening, but he's playing very, very aggressively from the start. F6, do we actually believe in this move with white having a light squared bishop? That is so ugly, I would never play it.
Yeah, it visually looks pretty bad, but actually I kind of like it from the practical perspective because it locks down the center. Now the knight on d5 is quite well defended. As you can see, bishop on f6 now also joins the game. And also Reyaansh did not really consider anything else. So he just opts to open up the position. So I don't think that black is doing so badly here. Should Castle run away with a king. And the position still remains very sharp. I'm quite surprised about the engine that says that it is so winning. I've seen much better, more clear positions from the white's perspective.
Yeah, black actually solved most of the problems by castling. The d6 pawn was probably already a goner anyway. Black was also thinking about playing moves like knight d3 and disconnecting the queen's protection of c2. But now black is just trying to mop up the pawn, get back to material equality. And if so, getting closer to equal. Although, remember, if you collect the pawn, you have a lot of pieces on the light squares. You absolutely have to be careful about even simple moves like queen d5. So yeah, this is the problem. Collecting that pawn is not exactly going to be the safest pawn to capture, but yet you don't want to let it live. So I'm still pretty nervous here for Arav. I think Reyaansh has done well in this opening game, and he has more time.
Absolutely. So here, king b1. I slightly do not like this move by Reyaansh because it feels he could have done something a bit faster. There comes the idea he removed the king from c1, so the black cannot take on d3 with a check. How about that? Now black played g6, h5 played by Reyaansh, and he's opening up the position, and black is still struggling. Wait a second, just bishop c7. That's it.
Yeah.
Arav blundered.
Yeah, he could take the queen back, but it would cost him the rook, as Gotham would say. And so Reyaansh, he's got one win, not really two losses, but, he's got to get, we think, at least 5.5 out of 8, probably 6 out of 8. He's off to a good start. We've got a couple games in progress. Here we see Hardy Gu struggling against Ethan Guo.
Yeah, actually, before he gave up the exchange, I was wondering what is going on. But what is, by the way, in the severe time scramble, as well. So Hardy is down to the last 3 seconds. It looks like Ethan is going to do it, and exactly he does, and forces White's resignation.
All right, Ethan goes to 2 points. He has one natural win, one forfeit win. We have knight versus bishop, but the king is just going to invade. I think collect every single pawn on the board. You can lose the b pawn and still, I think, win rather easily. And here we see black doing just that. The knight can move pretty much anywhere. The knight finally finds safe harbor. You can even take and get out of the pin if you need to, which is exactly what black is doing. And Bodhana, she might be going to 3-0 here. In fact, it would surprise me if she didn't go to 3-0 with such a position.
Watch out for White's counterplay with king d6, king e7. That's why Bodhana is very careful and puts the knight on f2. King d6 was impossible because of the fork on e4. Okay, that moment is gone. But White is still finding some chances here. Of course, black should be winning.
She's going to play f5. Yeah. If king e8, she's going to play f5 and then take the last pawn. Yeah. So she's
that is beautiful.
Clinical here. You were so right. If the king invades to f7, all 3 results become possible. And she took care of that one idea, even if it meant promoting her pawns more slowly. So she's about to go to 3-0. And what a start for Bodhana. She has never advanced to this Sunday. I think this is her 3rd attempt, but she's off to a fantastic start, Arturs. There we see the results. Have we seen it? We saw one draw in round 1. Otherwise, all decisive games. Reyaansh off to the right foot, and there are the standings, Arturs.
Yeah, so for Ray, definitely he has chances to fight for the top 2 spots. Bodhana at the moment is unstoppable. Ethan is within 1 point. But also for Hardy on a rough, not everything is over, and there's still many more games to be fought.
Absolutely. Okay, we've concluded 3 rounds. We have 7 games to go. Probably the person who needs the break the most is Reyaansh. If he didn't get that sandwich before his first game, Reyaansh, you have earned so much more than a sandwich. We're happy to have you in the event. And when we come back from this short break, we will continue with round 4 of Group B of the 2026 ChessKid Youth Championship. We'll see you in just a few moments.
And do you solve puzzle in head?
I can think about the moves in my head, but sometimes I do get it wrong.
Are you afraid of being wrong?
No.
That's very important not to be afraid, because that's the way of growth, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want to challenge one? I tell you a position, okay? And then you tell me if you can follow it.
Yeah.
Okay? White king is on b6. White queen is on c4. White pawns are on a5, d5, and h2. Got it?
Yeah.
So now black. Black has opposite to the white king on b8. Black has a bishop on d4 and has the following pawns: a6, b7, c5, d6. Can you say to me what is the position?
White king on b6, white queen on c4, white pawns on a5, d5, h2.
Super.
Black pawns on a6, b7, c5, and d6. Black bishop on d4 and black king on b8.
Correct. Tell me what is the evaluation of this. You have an extra queen, right?
Yeah. But like,
It's white to move.
we can't move the queen.
Because?
They're threatening bishop f6 to d8.
Excellent. Can you stop it?
I think you play queen takes d4.
Then I take c takes d4. And now the pawn race is won by...
Yeah.
So, okay, you know that queen d4 is not working. What is working?
h3.
Bishop f6.
Queen h4.
Bishop h4.
So that's stalemate.
Stalemate, yeah.
I definitely watched a lot of your videos on ChessKid, like the Beat Fun Master Mike videos. I also watched, I also did a lot of puzzles, but I think like it motivated me to like try to improve because like I always wanted to be in one of those videos and I wanted to beat you. So yeah, it definitely motivated me. I've never played in such a big online event before. Like the second biggest this is definitely the biggest online event, and I'm only played in like Title Tuesday. So yeah, this probably definitely the biggest online event I've played before. I did some light preparation. I didn't study any specific lines, but I did write down like my opponent's weaknesses and their strengths so I can try to avoid them. Some of them attack too much and they sometimes overextend. I'm not going to name who, but yeah. I don't think 3+1 really suits me. I think I'd rather play classical. I think in America, I think our blitz chess is a little bit weaker than people from the other countries because we have a lot of like over-the-board normal time control tournaments, so we don't really have enough time to practice blitz online. So I feel like Americans' blitz isn't as good as the others, but I'll still try. I think I'm decent enough. I want to become world champion one day. I'll need a lot of practice and I'll probably need a lot of, I think, perseverance as well, to get over the hard times, because there's always hard times when you're playing chess.
ChessKid is fun. Chess is great for the brain, but it's also fun to play. And ChessKid makes it easy to have fun. Whether your child is a total beginner or a prodigy, they can hop on and find a well-matched opponent from around the world at any time. ChessKid is the safe, parent-approved way for your child to play chess online. ChessKid is educational. To kids, it feels just like playing, but chess is a great way to learn patience, strategy, and critical thinking. ChessKid features a comprehensive training program that guides kids to level up on their way to mastery. There are more than 50,000 chess puzzles and a whole library of entertaining videos that teach strategies, tactics, openings, and endgames specifically for kids. ChessKid is easy. Whether you're a parent helping your child, a coach managing dozens of kids, or a school of hundreds. Signing up is free and easy, so what are you waiting for?
Welcome back, everybody. Now we're in the middle of things. This is Group B of the 2026 ChessKid Youth Championship, where we're seeing 6 of the 12 best under 13 players in the world. I'm Fun Master Mike, and I have my brother from my other Latvian mother, Grandmaster Arturs Naiksons, joining me once again.
Yeah, hey, brother. Okay, that was a very nice introduction. Didn't expect that. But anyway, I mean, action continues here in the Group B. So the first 3 rounds, they definitely were as great as I expected. We had some drama. We had some fun moments in the first group earlier today. And this group also doesn't disappoint. I'm very happy that Reyaansh was able to make it just in time. He just gave quite a big bonus to the other participants. He didn't play the first 2 games. He fought back and Now he won his round 3 game. So that would be essentially a story of the tournament, essentially, if he's going to make it to the knockout stage. But of course, still too early to tell. And next round has officially started.
All right, we're off and running. Bodhana is at 3-0. Nobody had 3 wins their first 3 games in Group A. She's once again fighting this double fianchetto system. Over on the left side of the screen, we have a closed Sicilian. And interestingly about Reyaansh, last year he was playing from Australia. He had to play at like 1, 2, 3 a.m. So it's funny. He had to forfeit 2 rounds, but now he's playing in a normal time zone. Could be better for him. I literally don't know. But we are off and running. And Archers, which game do you want to look at here in round 4?
Well, there's many juicy choices because I'm seeing yet again a London, and of course Reti. Of course, I could not really reject looking at any Reti games, and then we have some close Sicilian. I don't know. Maybe let's start with the game of Zhu against Sarbalia and eventually see where the game is going to take us. This system, the close Sicilian with knight g to e2, Mike, actually is quite poisonous. Engine says it's not a big deal, but all you need really is for a blitz game is to have an easy attack at the king side, and this is what this system exactly promises.
Yeah, and here's what I teach a lot of my students. Instead of playing the main line, if you play a second line, but it avoids all the things that your opponent has likely studied, it's frustrating. Like, I don't know a single Sicilian player that loves playing against either the closed or the C3 Sicilian, not because they're better, but because they don't get the positions that they want by playing the Sicilian. So it can be a little bit frustrating, and that might be a nice choice here by Linji. We got to know a little bit more about him during the break if you saw that interview that I did with him. But maybe being an annoying player, I mean that in a positive way, right? Choosing an opening his opponent may not like could be part of his thought process in this event.
Yeah. So queen c7, by the way, was targeting the pawn on c2, and this prompted Linji to respond with c3. And I would also like to go back because there was this one move that I really liked from our roughs. Responses, meaning here after queen e1, we're discussing that it's a very nice system from the white's perspective. You want to go for a potential king set attack, and this d takes on e4 is a very, very nice thematic way to play, even though Engine says it's not the most accurate move, because white wants to close the center start king set attack, and that's why Arav is thinking ahead. He's opening up the position and saying, hey, you can't do whatever you want at the king side because now I'm playing at the center. But anyway, this is the current position, and apparently white is doing better.
Linji looks locked in. He admitted to me during our interview this past week that he gets very nervous during games. And by the way, please don't do it now. But if you want to see about the most nervous, crazy game, he played a game against international master Mykola Bortnik that was absolutely a mess. His bishop on c8 didn't develop for 55 moves. Mykola under-promoted to a knight in the middle game. After all of this, Linji won the game. It was so crazy, Gotham Chess made a video out of it. So even though he says he gets nervous in tricky moments, in the most crazy game I think I've ever seen a kid play, he came out victorious. So go check that out, but not right now. I want to take a look at his current games. And he's cementing the control of d6. I love this move.
Yeah, wonderful move, e5. He locks the bishop on g7 out of the game, opens up the bishop on g2. Also ensures the control of the d6 square. A more notably, knight e4 could be a thing. So bishop takes on c6, knight e4. This knight on e4, Mike, is a monster. It controls all the critical squares in the position, and Arav's position by every single move is becoming worse and worse. So far, a very powerful display by Linji.
He's probably winning the c6 pawn, but a funny news, if he had played knight to d6, maybe the knight would have gone back to c8 to trade. By playing rook d6, he would probably prefer to sack a rook on d6 and keep a knight there than to have a rook there. But it's not going to matter. He's going to win the c6 pawn whenever he feels like doing it. And really a commanding position here for Linji in this game against Arav. So, but, crazier games comebacks were had from in our earlier segment today. So a pawn may not be the biggest deal in the world here. We'll see what Ara is able to come up with.
Yeah, exactly. So white is doing really well. Apparently, Engine says rook a6 is the only move in this position to keep the large advantage. What do you think, Mike? Let's have a quick look at the overview and see what there are other games showing us at the stage, because the player should be already over the opening phase. Even though Gu against Sivanandanan, we have already an endgame on the board. That was fun.
Yeah, and that's far more interesting than the Hardy Goo game. Hardy is putting an end to the fairy tale of Reyaansh Chakrabarti. Reyaansh didn't have to exactly run the tables, but it's going to be really hard to make a comeback from this one. So let's focus on that middle game where there's a lot more life. We've got bishops of same color. And if I count the pawns carefully, it looks completely equal, but a lot of pressure on that e6 pawn from Ethan. Ethan trying to end Bodhana's perfect score so far.
Yeah, and also bishop takes on d5 is a threat. As you can see, this rook on e8 is left defenseless. And actually, how do you meet it? How do you meet bishop takes on d5? That's quite an annoying move to meet. Rook e7, Bodhana responds probably the only move. But here, black's position is holding together by a thread because you need to calculate takes on e6, rook takes on e6, rook f1 check, the pawn on d5 is hit. Probably the only move is king e5. I would still calculate this line. Wait, what? King g3? Did he forget? Did he even forget that the pawn on f5 is under attack?
My only thought is that when you win the d5 pawn, the black rook might have invaded to e2, and you're trying to win this pawn without all the counterplay, but now you didn't even end up winning the pawn. So that might have been the fear of Ethan there, but Bodhana definitely looking a lot better than she did a couple of moves ago. And in fact, in this position, bishops of same color, but she's the first person to get a passed pawn. She's not necessarily winning, but that g pawn could become a decoy, and her king could sneak into g3. Let's see how she handles this.
Yeah, one thing I feel I have to pinpoint here is that all of white's pawns are on the color of the bishop, and that's why Engine really likes Bodhana's position because she has the outside pass pawn at the king side. Now she's offering to trade off the bishop. This means the pawn on g4, Mike, is going to serve as a decoy, and Ethan goes for this. Actually, this is a very surprising choice, with maybe his position already was quite bad. C takes on b4, g3. This should be a tactical win for Bodhana. 4 out of 4 potentially.
I think our bishop on d5 was dominant because if you don't trade, the pawn gets to g2. And by the way, it's kind of a deep cut, but by keeping her bishop where it did, it stopped white from playing c3 and d4 because b3 was hanging. She kept her bishop aiming at the b3 pawn. But yeah, this is child's play, and she is a child, but it's still child's play. She does not play b3. She moves her king in correct way, and she goes to 4. And she looked like she was going to be groveling for a draw down a pawn. And she wins the endgame. Amazing stuff. 4 out of 4 for Bodhana, the world's youngest ever WIM. And here we have a new game.
Yeah, she's definitely on fire. And here we have the final game where Lindsay wins against Arav. The H-pawn is unstoppable. And this means that this round is officially over.
Yeah, big win there for Lindsay. He jumps into second place, leading the contingent of 3 Americans there in a row. Reyaansh still has his 1 win. Remember, he's only actually played 2 natural games. And then Arav's going to try to jump back into it. Don't forget, Arav is the only kid, I believe, that has a social media presence. So go check out Arav's Instagram channel. Maybe AK, our wonderful moderator, could drop it in the chat there because I think he does want followers. But yeah, pretty exciting first 4 rounds. We are no rest for the weary. We're off and running here in round 5, and Reyaansh plays b3. If he plays g3, I'm convinced that the kids are maybe trolling me. Now he plays knight h4. I'm really not sure why the kids are doing this double fianchetto system. And Bodhana's back to the London. Whoa, wait a minute. She's winning?
What? Wait, what just happened there? Because I'm seeing it's a full piece. What just happened there? So we have to go back to the move 6 already. So what did just happen in Hardy's game?
He was staring at the ceiling, so whatever happened was really unexpected.
Oh my goodness. It's a mouse slip.
Yep, that's too bad. That's part of online chess. The queen clearly wanted to come all the way to d6, but didn't. So Bodhana retreats the bishop, and she's well on her way to 5 out of 5. I would not say we've never seen 5 out of 5, because if you'll recall, the very first year we had this event, I think it was 2024, Yuj Erdemis just, I don't remember what his final score was. In the entire event, he ended up having like 30 wins and 1 loss or something. But she is, on her way to challenging that record. So she goes to 5-0, and we feel for you, Hardy. I know you can't hear me. Youngest player in the field, 9 years old, but we hope he comes back with a vengeance and puts that one behind him.
Yeah, he definitely did look quite unhappy, obviously, after the game, but it is what it is. All of us, we have been in this situation. Even the world's greatest players occasionally do mouse slip. Unfortunately, that's part of online chess, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But yeah, let's follow the game of Araf against Ethan. And here it seems that White is doing much better. He has a strong pass pawn on d5, which is backed by two bishops. Black potentially has a weak pawn on c5. a4, Mike, is a very nice move because it stops Black's counterplay with b5 and c4. So this means that Black here is slightly suffering.
Now, White played f3. For me, my money is on the plan of g3, f4 to break the blockade. Now, you don't have to play it right away because a4 did such a good job of stopping counterplay by Black, but it looks like White's going to go the other way. I realize when you play this idea, you activate the dark squared bishop by Black, but if you can get all of those moves in, anyway, what are your general thoughts on instead of playing g3, f4?
Maybe. I don't think I would completely disregard it, but I'm a bit surprised about the last move f3 by Araf because I thought that this bishop on e2 could join bishop g4 if necessary at some point, because I think that the pawn on c5 at the moment is the weakest spot in Black's position. The pawn on e5 is well defended. So what you're suggesting is going for some kingside attack, I suppose, right? To play g3, f4, maybe f5, g4, g5, and go for some kingside attack. But I'm thinking that the pawn on c5 is quite vulnerable. Whoa, b5. What a shot here by Black. 8x, so b6, knight b6. The knight is hitting the rook on c4, which has nowhere to go.
Great fighting chess by Ethan. Ethan was not just going to sit around and wait for the queen to go to c2 and the light squared bishop to go to f1 and then to h3 and take the knight and take the c5 pawn. Instead, he traps the rook, and now White has to give the exchange. I love the fact that it looked like Black was doing nothing, and out of nowhere, this shot with pawn to b5 happened. You know, it's funny. We actually asked the players before the event, what's one rule that we'd like to change in chess? And Linji, not playing this game, but Linji said he'd like to change the en passant rule. And in fact, so did Ali from our opening event. Two of the kids do not like en passant, but hey, it's important. And Black has just gone up the exchange.
I think here, actually, Araf should be very happy about the en passant rule. Otherwise, he would just lose the rook on c4 immediately on the spot. So having this rule, sometimes it does help you. There's that.
Yeah, absolutely. But now he's just hoping to hold the draw. Now, if you're down the exchange, you want to limit the number of open files. And the good news for White is that there's only really one half open file. But if Black could somehow trade the A pawn for the B pawn, then the bishop on c4 would no longer have his support. The rooks would invade a lot more. So Black's plan is probably going to be a5, a4, because the more open lines, the more the rooks can assert their dominance. But Archer's is showing that if you play it too quickly, bishop d2, and maybe the pawn's going to be lost on a5.
I know the Black rook is trapped. Look at this, Mike. Now the Black rook is trapped exactly the same way. Rook b6, bishop a5. White can collect the rook on b6. But you know, I'm thinking, is this really something you want to do for White? Because I kind of like these bishops, and I'm not really sure if in this position the extra exchange really matters. What does matter is the easiness to play this position. But okay, Araf says exchange is an exchange. By taking on b4, he also opens up the long diagonal here, and now White might have some problems with protecting the dark squares.
Yeah, I could see Black's bishop going to c5 and then to g1 and then to h2 and then to g3, going around the world there. Whereas the White bishop is aiming at a bunch of hot air. So in the battle of opposite color bishop middle games, we always say you want to be the attacker because whatever color you're attacking on, your opponent is basically defending with one fewer piece. Black looks a little better, but now the bishop's being used as a blockader, and White is going to get the pawn all the way to d7 and deaden the Black rook.
Yeah, now here, Arab found the perfect opportunity to push the d pawn forward. Actually, the invalidation bar says the position still remains very level. Apparently, the d7 pawn is going nowhere. King f6, that's a very brave move, Mike. King e7, the king comes to help to stop the d pawn. But ultimately, the question is, how do either of the players make any progress? I think here it's getting quite clear if somebody's playing this for the win. Now it's White.
Yeah, it could be. The weakness of the dark squares around the king is no longer that important. And if you're White, you could trade queens. You would never get mated. And then your pawn on d7 would give you the best chances. Now, you're showing a little exchange sacrifice there, which also is a fascinating idea, and it might be good.
I don't know if it's good. I just saw it like I have a soft spot in my heart for exchange sacrifices, because the point is your game would become a bit easier. But I think queen takes on a5 is just good. And this is Araf's choice, and Eden is just trying to stay in the game.
Yeah, you could play rook d5, rook b5 here. Well, you don't want to lose your d7 pawn, so apologies if I hung that pawn, but the rook has gotten in the game. The Black rook is going to remain a defender for quite some time. And yeah, just walk the king in. You can sack the exchange later if you need to. You probably don't even ever need to. I don't know how black comes up with some counterplay, but now at least black is using the king as a defender of the pawn. At least the black rook is moving around. You need to play some active defense here.
Yeah. This potentially could be a pretty long game because I love the idea of e takes e5 and king d5. Here, white might to destroy black's setup with something like f4 at the right moment. Rook a8. I think rook e8 and this d pawn is about to be promoted exactly like that. And now I need a smart move. Maybe just take king takes on b4 and see what happens. No, he takes the pawn on f5.
Don't get yourself mated. By the way, quick result to report. Linji Zhu has won his black against Reyaansh Chakrabarti. So Linji cements his position firmly in second place. Unlike our opening round, this is becoming a little bit of a two-player race for those top two spots because Linji moves to 3.5 out of 5. Bodhana, of course, it's a perfect 5 out of 5. And let's see what happens here. Going to be up a piece. A lot of extra pawns. And it looks like
he then just resigns. What a technique by Raf. Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, really nice. And we thought that the opposite color bishop would favor black, but notice what white did. White made sure that there was no dark squared attack around his king. And white, the moment his pawn was able to rush down the board, even if you can't make it to the finish line by getting it to the 7th rank, that caused black to be passive for the rest of the game. Bodhana with a perfect 5 out of 5. Linji with 3.5. He's on +2. And we've got Arav, Ethan, Hardy, and Reyaansh. And we have round 6, our last game before our second break, off and running. We have another Caro.
Okay, we have a Caro, we have a London, and then we have an exchange French. I don't think we saw an exchange French yet in this group. We did see some French games in the group A. Apparently, these kids, they're playing the same openings. They have the same opening tastes. Which game catches your attention, Mike? You would love to check it first.
Well, because we didn't see Reyaansh in a couple of rounds, we haven't seen too many exchange Frenches. Let's take a look at that game between Ethan Guo and Reyaansh Chakrabarti. It may not be the most appealing on the board, but I think it's nice to show some love to all of our players here. And both players really, really need to get some wins. By the way, we've had 15 games so far in this Group B, only one draw. Ooh, little trick there. If you trade everything, there's going to be a rook e8 idea.
So here, Ray shows that he's tactically sharp. Of course, I don't think that Ethan is going to fall for this because the king on E1 is a bit exposed. But this also means that black immediately solves all the opening problems, something like knight c6, bring out the bishop on g4, so black can certainly look ahead in the future. So typically at this moment, players are looking at the long-term plans, and Ray decided that, okay, bishop on g4 stands nice. And what are you going to do with the pawn on b7, which is under attack? Do you play knight c6 or knight e7? Knight c6 is the response of the Australian.
I actually was wondering if after e5, he was going to play e4 and force white to take it to open up the queen's diagonal and the rook. But instead, he plays a little bit more classically. And yeah, black is easily equalized here. The dark square weaknesses around his king don't matter very much at all. And just looks like a comfortable position for black. Because, black always has this lever of f7, f5 if he needs to play aggressively. So he just drops back. But I do like the fact that black has that one pawn in the center. But objectively, it is completely equal here. But again, both players really need to be thinking about stringing together a bunch of wins. There's 5 games left. And certainly I would say that both players control their own destiny. If Reyaansh runs the table, 6 out of 10 should get you into at least a tiebreak. Remember, 5.5 out of 10 got you into a tiebreak in our earlier session today. So I don't know if they're already thinking about what score they need, but that's the good news. That's the glass half full perspective for both players.
Yeah, absolutely. So all 3 results are still possible here, and both players definitely need the victory. Maybe let's go back to the bird's eye view and check what's happening in the other 2 games, because maybe we have missed something. So we're going to start with the game of Sarbalia against Bodhana. That's the top left corner. As you can see, it's some sort of, again, quite peaceful middle game, end game. I'm actually seeing quite a lot of end games from Bodhana's perspective. It seems that she's really good at this, because I remember her game against who was it, against Ethan, right, where she outplayed Ethan in this bishop endgame. Then we have Gu against Zhu. That's the right corner, and apparently Gu is in big trouble. Maybe you can go there and check it out. What exactly happened?
Yeah. That's a good point. That's the one game we've got a significant advantage. Linji has been rolling. I forgot who his loss was to. If it was to Bodhana, I'll have to go back and check that. I guess it has to be Bodhana, right? Bodhana ran the table, so there you go. I could just use the power of inference to remind myself of that. But he's getting back into second place here, destroying the king side. Everybody invades,
Oh,
stacks a piece, but the pawns have been denuded around the king. Shout out to Irina Krush for teaching me that word once. He has a draw, but he's going to go for more, absolutely, for sure.
now he is going for more. Actually, in this previous position, I was wondering, was there not a sacrifice on h4? Because here after, okay, it doesn't really matter. With knight h4, I thought there might be an exchange sacrifice on h4, but now the position simplifies. Black regains the sacrifice material with some material interest, which is 2 extra pawns, and this should be technically winning for Lynchy, and that's why Hardy is trying to organize some counterplay in the center with d5. Is he going to make it? I think rook takes... Oh, wait, rook takes on d1 is c7. You have to be very careful. That's why Black cannot do that. Oh, nicely caught by both players.
Wow, that would have been, not a cool finish if you're in the Zhu household, but yeah, it just goes to show you never resign. Black has a million extra pawns, and yet there was that, I'm not going to say one last trap, there could be more, but yeah, I've actually, in my Chessable course called What to Do When You're Losing, I even have Grandmaster games where stalemates, happen. So weirder things have happened, especially in Blitz chess. But by the way, Lynchy has a lot of good role models. The last time I saw him was in New York at a big Scholastic tournament, and he was hanging out with Brewington Hardaway, Grandmaster, Megan Paragua, who's going to play in the Under-16 Championship in 2 weeks. So he's got a lot of top young prodigies that he hangs out with, and it's good because he's got these older kids to practice against, and it's always nice to know that there's that one person better than you that you can practice with and look up to. But 4 pawns against 1, I don't think he needs Brewington or Megan's advice. He converts to win 4.5 out of 6. A really great start for Lynchy.
Yeah, and maybe we go immediately straight back to Bodhana's game. And again, she's showing her magic in endgames because it was quite peaceful-ish before. Now, a couple of moves later, it seems that her endgame skills are definitely quite superior, at least to some of the opponents, because, again, she's outplaying the opponents. And for Araf, the problem is that all the pawns, most of these pawns are on the color of the bishop. I love the move by Bodhana. King d6, king c5, bishop e6, and here White is desperately trying to stay alive.
Yeah, in fact, I heard something very interesting when she was playing some of these offhand games in London, and she played Danny Wrench. I believe Malcolm Payne, the godfather of English chess, said that she's not an underdog playing against IEMs when she has no increment. She's that fast. She hasn't had to show her speed, but it's really interesting how quick she can be. I don't know if we can call her a favorite against Danny. I mean, Danny, my annual performance review is coming up. I don't want to call my boss an underdog against Bodhana, but I'm just saying she's really fast. But she's been so dominant, she hasn't even really needed to show that. But she is almost qualified before the final break because she's about to go to 6 out of 6.
Right, and it looks like she's going to do it exactly here. Yeah, all of it started with this endgame. And Araf resigns, and what a run by Bodhana. She's unstoppable force at the moment. Perfect score, 6 out of 6. But we have one more game ongoing, which is Ethan Guo against Reyaansh. And Ethan has extra pawn in the rook endgame. And the question is, how does Black stop g4, g5? g5 and king g6. Look at this. This was a very interesting technique.
Yeah, there was going to be a mate, as you pointed out, if White got the pawn to g5 first. So Black had to sack a pawn just to clear some space. But this is probably the best practical try by Black because White's 2 g-pawns don't really matter that much. It is technically winning, though, but we need a technique. So I'm hoping that you can channel your inner endgame expert, your inner Paul Carries. Yeah.
Yeah, or Capablanca. Just take the pawn on h7. No, this should be a pretty easy win by Ethan. Rook d7. I don't think he needs the pawn on g3 at all, but of course, Black is going to fight it out on the very end, but I don't think he can save the game anymore.
All right, extra queen. We're just waiting there. Ethan converts against Reyaansh, and we go to our second and final break. Let's take a look The players there, you couldn't really tell who won or lost the game based on that. Reyaansh, you get the Iron Man Award, though, for playing OTB and online in the same day. There's our standings. 6 out of 6. By the way, Bodhana just flew back from Austria yesterday, where she picked up 100 ELO points and nearly became an FM all-in-one tournament. So she's also an Iron Woman of chess. Lin Zhizhu, commanding spot for second place. Ethan and Arav are still in it. Hardy and Reyaansh need to go on a big run, and that is where we stand going in to our second and final break. But before we go to break, I need you to do something for me. During the break, actually, I want you to join the official Chess.com community club. I'm a member, almost 50,000 other members. This is the place to be for all the info on community tournaments. We just had the 3 checks tournament I was too busy to play. Giveaways, or giveaway chess, by the way, contests, and other fun events like Danny versus the World. I didn't even know about that event. Plus, you can connect with community and stay up to date on the chess world. Use the command !community in chat to get in on the action. And we're going to go to break. When we come back, though, the conclusion of Group B of the 2026 ChessKid Youth Championship.
We're in London for the Speed Chess Championship finals here, and I'm at the legendary Chess and Bridge shop waiting to meet somebody I'm a huge fan. She's right here. Her name is Bodhana. She's one of the biggest rising stars in the game, and I hear she hangs out here often. Bodhana, is that you?
Yeah, hi.
Oh my gosh, there's Bodhana right here. Jokes aside, it's great to meet you. Thanks for playing along. I am a huge fan.
Thank you for the invitation.
I'm following your career very closely.
Thank you.
Do you come here often?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I've come
Often
here
enough?
before, yeah.
Okay. You want to go inside and check out the store?
We'll do that.
All right, let's do it.
Well, hey, guys.
Hi.
Well, I didn't know we were going to have any chess celebrities today. Do you fancy a game?
Yeah.
Let's do a game because we're in the Chess and Bridge shop. There's books everywhere, okay? How about this? I'm going to give you each 100 quid. I'm going to give you 5 minutes on a chess clock to build the best chess library that you can. And then at the end, I'm going to grade who built the better library, and you get to keep it. So, you down for this?
Yeah.
Okay, there's 100 quid.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Let's set up 5
All right.
minutes on the clock. Come on over here, and we're going to see who can build the best library. Bodhana, do you read any chess books?
Not many, but I have read a few.
She's playing online, you know. That's how the cool kids do it these days. All right, let's do it. Best chess library wins.
Okay.
Go. Got to get familiar real quick with some titles here.
You can try this book by Judith, or on Judith, rather. Maybe attacking book as well.
Hit your clock. Hit your clock.
This is perhaps the best chess library I've been to. Zabretsky, you ever read this one?
No.
No, this is for old people. Your move.
Okay.
Puzzles, tactics, openings. John Nunn, your move, Bodhana.
Try this one.
All right, I got Levy. This is our draw offer, and we pay our penance to the chess book god guy over here. And that's it. Let's shake hands. Just in time. Nobody lost on time.
We're done. All right, well, now it's time to add up your purchases and see who built a better library. If I take a look at both books, Danny, you are only going to be good when we get down to 7 pieces or less. So I'm going to have to award Bodhana the winner. She gets the bonus book. And Bodhana, you win our chess library challenge. Congratulations. Congratulations. Those are your books.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
What in the world? What is going on over here? Okay. Here we go. Wow. I've never played a robot before.
Capture pawn.
Wow. Okay. Don't have to be so aggressive. Is this your first time playing a human? This robot's really good.
Capture bishop.
Capture bishop? What? Oh, wait. Yeah, that was not ideal. You are smart. Not just the technology. Like this is some high quality chess. I know it's checkmate. All right, well, the least you could do is shake my hand.
Winning and losing are common in games. I believe you will get better and better. Keep it up.
That was perfect.
That's all for us, folks, from the Chess and Bridge shop in London. Thank you so much for teaching me a valuable lesson in your hometown. And we'll see you around on Chess.com.
Welcome back to the exciting conclusion of the opening day of the 2026 ChessKid Youth Championship. 2 players lead the field. We'll see if the other 4 can catch up. I'm Funmaster Mike, and I'm here with Grandmaster Arturs Nikshans. Arturs, tell us about the standings so far going into round 7.
Yeah, the standings are all about Bodhana's amazing performance because she has won her first 6 games, and this means that she is 1 foot already in the knockout phase, which is going to happen tomorrow. Still, nothing is 100% certain yet. Lin Shizhu is very close, 1.5 points behind, and also cementing his place in the knockouts. And if somebody wants to catch them, it must be probably Ethan Guo. And the next round is about to start. Guo is playing his game against Zhu. Bodhana is playing against Ray, Gu against Arbali, and the games are starting.
Yeah, that middle game's got my attention right now because absolutely Ethan Guo needs a full point victory over Lin Zhu, not just for himself, but to bring Lin Zhu back to earth. If you're one of the players in the chase field, you just have to let Bodhana go. You actually hope that she keeps winning games because she's already so far gone. You want her to knock out your rivals for second place. But I hope Bodhana also goes for 4 out of 4 and gets a perfect 10 out of 10. Even Yuj Artemis did not get 10 out of 10 to the best of my knowledge when he won this event a couple of years ago. So Bodhana, go for 4 out of 4. I hope you become the quad god, to borrow a term from the Winter Olympics figure skating. But back to chess here. And here is that featured game. Ethan would almost catch up to Linji with a win here. And we have our pretty typical open Sicilian position with that bad pawn on d6. And white is shifting to maybe an attack on the king.
Yeah, so this looks like a typical Sicilian Scheveningen position where black controls the e5 square. It has become quite out of fashion lately, even though this was a Najdorf, I do believe, who I did play an early f4 push. This was quite a popular system back in the, whichever years it was, like 80s, 90s, when Kasparov was playing against Karpov, World Championship matches. And knight b3 to d4 is a very common maneuver, Mike, because the knight is getting to f5, meaning target a pawn on g7 after bishop takes on f5, e takes on f5. This knight on c3 is ready to join the attack as well. And I suppose this is why, of course, the engine says that b5 is a bit slow move.
Yeah, because the knight not exactly going to be hurt by the pawn coming to b4. The knights have obvious placements, and that poor bishop on e6 is doing double duty. It wants to get rid of the knight on d5, but it has to stick around for the other knight going to f5, and that's probably the bulk. I'm actually a little surprised the engine doesn't favor white by a little bit more. That knight is coming to f5. I guess bishop to f6 would kind of hold things together a little bit, but d6 continues to be weak. And by the way, I want to congratulate you on your very great pronunciation of Scheveningen. I believe the Netherlands just called and they're offering you citizenship. That was great.
Let me just say it again, Scheveningen. And you know, how can I pronounce it so well, Mike? Because I was literally practicing it. And when I was saying in an old-fashioned way, I was saying Scheveningen, some Dutch chess players heard it, and they immediately, they scolded me and say, you can't say it like that. And I literally had to study Scheveningen for hours every single day until I got it right.
And you know what? We have 2 kids in this field who said history is their favorite subject. During World War II, that very word was a shibboleth to determine if you were a friend of the Axis or the Allies. Please don't ask me any more questions about history. We're going back to chess. Is there any counterplay that black can get on this position? Because right now it's just waiting for the white pieces to flood in. And if you're Ethan, you need a win as black.
Yeah, I guess he has to survive the onslaught that Linchi is throwing at him. It means that all of white's pieces that are going for the king's attack, look at this knight on f5 and the bishop on f4 and the queen on g3 and also potentially the bishop on e2 and the rook on b1. So for black, for Ethan, his dream is somehow to get the queens off the board, because if he could say, poof, the queens are gone, the rooks are gone, and he could get an endgame where his knight on e5 is versus white's bishop on e2, then maybe he has a shot. Until then, I do think that Linji's chances are better.
And queen d7, maybe the idea is to play g6. I know you greatly weaken your f6 bishop, but you get the queens off the board. So exactly on cue, Arturs, this g6 idea appears on the board, and white has to figure out how can we avoid the queen trade to keep all those attacking hopes alive. So he first trades, which allows him access to the g4 square. And by the way, it's not that he wanted to trade the bishop, but it was exactly to prevent this g6 liquidation. That's why white has gone for this line, and the computer approves.
I don't really know. It was such a very big decision, Mike, because if white will be unable to find anything in the next move, for example, I think I'm just going to walk away, and the threat is to play g6 and f5. I want to lock out your bishop on g4. Then what? That was the idea. Now he plays knight e4, and the knight is getting to c6. Okay, this was actually very impressive stuff, because to be honest, me being an active grandmaster, I was not sure about this, but now that I'm seeing this, I kind of like it.
I really wanted knight takes g7, bishop f5 to work. You don't have to go back and look at it. I'm almost positive it didn't work, but those are the kinds of things I think about when I have a light squared bishop and my opponent doesn't. So black is making, well, I'm not going to say evaluation bar progress, but at least he's limiting some of the attack here. And the d5 pawn, at least he's got something to aim at. But again, critical game, a reminder that the top two advance to tomorrow. We had two players advance in our earlier section. Supratit Banerjee from England, almost certainly going to be joined by his countrywoman Bodhana, also from England. And we had Ashwant Kaushik from Singapore, who's going to stay up late and play more chess tomorrow. Those two kids will be joined by two kids from today. And Linji is looking to be one of those kids, but he's got to make sure Ethan can't make a comeback in this game.
Yeah, this game, I think, is the closest so far. Just to give you an update what's going on in the other games, Bodhana currently is crushing Ray Chakrabarti with the black color. So actually, just as I spoke, she won her game, and I think she should already be officially qualifying for the knockout stage. 7 out of 7. I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to catch her. And then Gu against Serbalia is about a balanced position.
Yeah, if she does not qualify with 7 out of 7, I will eat my Chess.com scarf. So that's my way of not doing real math, but just saying it's likely going to happen. So she officially has pulled a Fabiano Caruana. She's won her first 7 games of the tournament. Let's see if she can go further than Fabi and win even more. But look at this, Ethan Guo getting back to rough equality after f6.
Yeah, so here suddenly white is down a pawn. Actually, we just missed it, and the game is getting quite sharp. Obstacle of bishops on the board. Both players are down about 15 seconds on the clock. F5 marks as a mistake. Knight takes on e5. Not an easy move to spot, and yet Linji does it. The knight on b6 is under attack.
Yeah, somebody in the chat must have tuned off at the exact wrong moment in the earlier section. They asked, did Ashwant Kaushik beat Luca Protopopescu? Yes, they went all the way to Armageddon. So just to catch you up, we had quite a battle. It does not look like Armageddon is something we're going to be focusing on just yet, though. We've got a long way to go. Really strong pawn on d6, but it might just get captured nonetheless. It did.
Yeah, to be honest, Mike, I mean, Linji could just capture the knight on b6, which was just hanging a couple of moves ago. And now I think that Ethan, he just very quickly realized it. He immediately walked away with the knight, and now he should be able to do it. 2 extra pawns. Now they are increasing in the speed. The question is, can Ethan here score a crucial victory? There's a queen trade, and there should be, for white, problems with the back rank, and bishop is gone. I think Guo is going to win it, and he does.
Wow, an unbelievably important game for the standings there. Under duress the whole game, but a huge comeback from Ethan. Does not quite get him into second place, but it narrows the gap greatly. He was 1.5 point back to start this final section. Now he's only a half point back, and things have gotten very interesting. And as I mentioned, everybody in the field is rooting for Bodhana right now because she's gone, okay? You're only trying to fight for that second place spot to try to advance to tomorrow's semifinals and finals. So who does Bodhana have next as her next victim? It's actually Linji. Okay, battle of 1 versus 2. And here we go. That's definitely the game to be focusing on here because we've got our top 2 in the standings facing each other.
And it's the London, of course. Again, Bodhana played the same system. In the meantime, in the other games, we have Pirtz versus Serbalia versus Chakrabarti and Guo versus Gu. It is King's Indian attack or Reti, whatever. I think it's the Reti, of course. We have seen so many Reti today, Mike. I love the count.
I'm shocked that kids don't play more highly topical lines. I mean, I feel like that's where kids shine, is they've got all this time to study all these materials that you and I did not have growing up. Some game would get played in the Soviet Union. We'd find out about it 6 months later. Well, maybe not you. You lived a little bit closer. But the point is, everything is so immediate, and yet they're not playing anything topical. They're playing just kind of normal, let's get out and get into the middle game. Maybe Magnus gave them some bad habits. Magnus has always felt like somebody who wanted to start the game at move 15 and not really study a lot of opening theory. That's kind of the page that they're taking out of Magnus's playbook here.
Yeah, exactly. So they are playing these easier openings. Maybe these are blitz openings, and classical chess playing something else. But if we would go full screen on Bodhana's game against Lynchy, because this is essentially a fight of the leaders, for Lynchy, he desperately, I think, needs the victory here. And from the starting moves, it seems that he is doing great. He has an open H file. So for Bodhana, this is another London game gone wrong, because I think also in round one in the London, she mixed up things and she was not doing so well, even though she did win that game, and then 6 more on top of that. And right now, the English player is trying to launch her counterattack at the queen side, is b4, a4, b5, and maybe according to the engine, this minimal advantage black enjoys, maybe it's not really anything, because Bodhana's counterplay is coming very fast.
Yeah, this is the kind of position where I wouldn't even look at the eval bar, because the computer is measuring things down to every single tempo. It's almost like who's going to get their plan effectuated faster, not about the objective evaluation. By the way, I should mention, Bodhana might be wearing a different ChessKid shirt. She changed shirts during break. She's representing the entire line of her ChessKid apparel, because she was wearing a blue shirt. Now she's wearing a yellow one, but there's only one Bodhana. I know it looks like she has the power of 2 or 3 players, but it is the same Bodhana. She's got her open lines. We want those open lines when we're attacking with kings on opposite sides. She's going to put her rooks on A1 and B1, and just like that, it's looking very tough for Lynchy to defend.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that Lynchy played bx on a4 like automatically here. I'm just going to go back to this critical moment after a4. I think here what he should have done is keep the queen side closed as much as you can. And I think he just slapped this bx on a4 very quickly. And about here, he just realized, now my king is so exposed. How about we trade queens? And Bodhana says, no, sir, I'm not going to do that. And here for black, this is bad news, Mike. Rook a1, rook b1, all of white's KB pieces are hunting down the exposed black king.
Yeah, this is almost like a ChessKid video where I'm showing what to do when the kings are on opposite sides, because she's done it clinically. She's been the first to push her pawns, the first to sack a pawn to open a line. She's put her rooks on those open lines. I mean, what more can you ask for? She makes chess look so easy. Now we've got all kinds of sacrifices. Knight takes a6, looks playable. If the queen takes, you can take everything and do a double rook mate. If the pawn takes, same thing. So you don't even have to do anything terribly fancy. Just take on h6 and go for a quick mate.
Yeah, so something like sacrifice on a6 might be just fine, but I'm thinking also a simple move, queen a5 and rook b6 seems to be very solid, and then at the right moment, sacrifice on a6. So for Lynchy here, unfortunately, this is pretty bad news, and it looks like he's not going to make it. Of course, let's not fry down his chances. b5, yeah, that is a desperation move. I don't really know how else to describe it. Knight x on a6 is a move. Queen x on a6 is a move. I think actually here Bodhana could just even trade queens and go for that mate, and this is exactly what she does.
Absolutely. Let's stay here, though, because who doesn't love a good checkmate? It looks like mate in 2. She's found it. It's funny. She went from a rook on A and B file checkmate, and now she's going to do the rook on the 7th and the 8th. Those rooks, the geometry of chess. Hey, it keeps happening today. Go check out Maurice Ashley's Chessable course. Maurice, I think you owe me a couple lunches after all the shout outs today. But Bodhana continues 8 out of 8. Take that, Fabiano. She's taken your record and gone one further. But that's 2 losses in a row for Lynchy. Lynchy has to right the ship. He's still on a plus score, but that means that several other players are going to try to catch him. Here we have Arav against Reyaansh in what should be endgame that black has better chances. The rook's going to come to h3.
Yeah, there's limited material available on the board, but Black has created some weaknesses in the White's camp. Normally, such endgames, 2 pawns against 3 at the king side, they are theoretically drawn. But the problem for White is the unfortunate placement of the king and also the pawn on h4. Yet the question is, how do you get this thing done? I don't think it's really so trivial, Mike. And that's why also for Reyaansh, he is trying to figure out what's the progress. Does he want to go for f5? Araf says, no, you're not going to do that.
All right, do you play g5 any moment here? I guess he felt like he had to. It was the only choice. Computer approves. You're a little hesitant to play this because in a perfect world, you'd like to win a pawn and play 3 against 1. Now White does get some counterplay, but in a lot of these positions, you'll sack the rook for the e-pawn, but you should only do it at the very last moment. Wait till the White king gets way far afield, take the pawn at the last moment, and your 2 pawns should be able to defeat the rook. It's becoming a little more clear now why Black is winning this. The 2 pawns, aided by the king, look to be too much for the White rook.
Yeah, so far, Reyaansh's technique is flawless, and he's going to stop the e7 pawn by rook a8 at the right moment. And yeah, he's ready to give up the rook on e7 if he has to. And it looks like the Australian is going to score the necessary victory here in this position. Rook e8 should seal the deal, and Araf resigns.
Nice one by Reyaansh, showing that he's got a lot more energy than I would have had after playing a couple of over-the-board games and then playing this tournament. But here we come to a game that's critical for the standings. Ethan just won a game he had to win, and now is he going to take advantage of the fact that Lin Zhizhu lost and he has a chance to catch up and equalize or even pass him if he's able to win this game as White, but Black is somehow making some progress with these past pawns.
Wait a second. Now, suddenly the race for the final qualification spot to the knockouts might could become very, very tight because Lynchy lost. And also, Ethan is apparently losing in this position if Black is going to convert this. And so this could mean that the final rounds, they're going to have essentially a photo finish. So Bodhana is cruising away with the victory. Wait a second. Rook f4? Black just blundered the pawn on a4.
I really don't know why the bishop went back to f8 a long time ago. The bishop was just fine on g7. Just play f5 and activate your bishop. This is allowing the pawns to get captured, but a really important distinction here. Now, that pawn on h4 has just put himself on a dark square. I don't really understand that either because the bishop can now target it one day. Certainly, Black has the better chances. Let's see if Hardy Gu, our youngest player, our 9-year-old player, our only 9-year-old in the second group today, is able to convert this as Black. He certainly has good chances.
Yeah, he's definitely still playing for the win. He has many, many pawns that are marching forward. King e6, okay, that was a very, very tough choice for him. The pawn on f7 was under attack. Still, wait a second, how actually do you make a progress here? Rook a1 is bishop g1. No, he has rook h6. Oh, that was very close. Very lucky by Ethan.
Very unorthodox endgame, but I think the mistake a couple of moves ago is when Black moved the king backward, Black should have just given the f-pawn and marched his own king down the board to keep the white king out of the game. Now that the white king has gotten in the game, very, very hard to make progress. But still, if Ethan gets a draw here, he'll only equal Linji with 2 games to go. They've already played their head-to-head game in the back half of this double round robin, so we're not going to see them face each other. There's going to be a lot of game spotting in addition to playing their own game in these final couple of rounds. If you're White, you'd almost think about trying to win the game.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's just going to take on h2 and just secure a draw. But for Hardy, unfortunately, this was... Oh!
All right, humor in chess.
Was this intentional? I don't understand it. Or it was just trolling.
I think it was. The kids are good and they're funny, and he didn't even break a smile, by the way, after doing that. But it is game on for here. Bodhana has officially clinched. I'm not going to have to eat my scarf, but Ethan and Linji are locked in a battle here for second place. Not completely out of the question for Hardy Gu to win 2 games, although he's going to need a lot of help. So Ethan and Linji's games are clearly the most important. So we've got Linji over there on the far left. We've got Ethan in the middle. Both of those boys have white, and those are the 2 most important games for round 9.
Okay, then let's maybe focus on those 2 games on how is doing Ethan against Araf. That's the middle board. It's some open Sicilian. Lynchy is playing against Reyaansh. And it is paired, some sort of a pairs position on the board. And then we have, of course, yet another London. I think it's the exchange variation after d5. Mike, I'll leave it up to you.
Let's go over to Linji, because he's facing a battle here, not just in the standings, but a psychological battle. He's lost 2 games in a row. And I hope he's aware that he still controls his own destiny. That would be a very important thing to buoy your confidence. You don't actually have to go game watching. If you take care of your business and you win 2 out of 2, you can do no worse than a tie break. So let's see if he shows any nerves. He did admit to getting very nervous in some games, but we're already so deep in the tournament, you would think any nerves would have worn off. And he looks totally fine in picture, even leaning back in his chair. And he's getting his knight to f5. He loves putting the knight there. A couple of games ago, he got a knight to f5. It didn't work out for him, but it wasn't because of knight f5. It was in spite of knight f5.
So Reyaansh allows the white knight to land on f5, and he says, I'm going to smoke you out at some point, which could be actually pretty challenging, because immediately g6 weakens the knight on f6, and I love the move queen f3. Angel says, actually, it's a mistake. Why it's a mistake? It's such a very natural move in the wall, because I suppose there's some very concrete problems. E takes on d4 and knight d5. I don't know, looks very good move to me. But apparently, at least according to an engine, E takes on d4 for Reyaansh is the only move to stay in the game, and he finds it.
And we're not going to switch over, but Bodhana just won again out of the opening. She is 9 out of 9. I would love if somebody on my staff or anybody out there in the Twitch world went back and looked at the 2024 under 13. I'm almost positive Yuj had at least 1 draw. I don't think anybody's gone 10 out of 10. Somebody go do the research for me. I don't have an on-the-ground reporter, except for the whole world. So Twitch community, do your thing. Put it in the chat. You might even get your name mentioned in the chat. But back to the games that really matter here. Linji's taken over. Oh, bishop takes f7. Tactics on f7.
Queen c4 check. That's a big check here. No, that's a beautiful shot. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, chess fans who is watching, you should do puzzles. For
But the
this
knight, he did take with the knight.
Oh my God, that is so cute. Knight x on d5, another sacrifice. This could be actually, Mike, the game of the round. C x on d5 is queen x on d5. That's a mate. King g8 is going to be a double check. If this is not the checkmate, I don't know what it is. It's
this sack on f7 reminds me of Fischer Banco, where Fischer won in about 9 moves with the sack on f7, and shades of that game here. But how is the king going to survive? Wait a minute. You're going to go show us. I think it's definitely worthy of a showing. Bishop takes f7. You'll love to see it.
Yeah, this is just too beautiful not to show it. I mean, knight x on d5, c takes on d5 is queen takes on c7. This intermezzo move b5 doesn't do anything. The queen stays on the long diagonal, and right now Linji is just looking for the killer, the discovered check by the knight. Knight d7. Look at this beautiful check here. You can't really do anything because queen e6 or queen e5. This is essentially game over for black. Such a beautiful move.
So cool. I thought the knight was going to go to c7. So when the rook went to e6, he had multiple pieces. But this move blocked out the rook, and it stopped, black had to put the queen in the way, which doesn't do anything at all. There's recovery games, and there's recovery games. That was an absolutely awesome tactic by Linji Zhu to get back in the game. And what to say, except that's exactly how you recover mentally. Linji said before this tournament that the hardest thing about chess is to control your own mentality. He said, quote, it's hard to keep a stable mindset during the game, but that is a great way to keep a stable mindset. And now Ethan has to match him, and Ethan has a big advantage over Arif.
He has an extra exchange and also the compensation for it, meaning he has some sort of an attack. There's one check on f7, which I'm not really sure what it does because the king's going to walk away and I don't really see a follow-up. So I suppose, Mike, is that either needs to slowly improve his position, which is exactly what he does. He plays rook e1, protects support on e5. a5 is met by b5. Oh my goodness, these kids are so sharp. C takes on b5 is going to be knight takes on d5. Maybe I'm just going to put it on the screen before it's gone. Look at this, b5. The point is, after c takes on b5, here Eden's idea was to play knight takes on d5, e takes on d5, bishop takes on d5, give a check on g8, and collect the knight on b7. And what makes it remarkable, Mike, is that he spotted this in seconds.
Yep. It looks like light squares for the win here for our chase group, for our peloton, as you would say, Artur. So we're seeing very similar types of ideas here. I do want to thank Thorn969, you got your name announced. Ben H01, you are my crack team of researchers. Yuj actually had 8 wins and 2 losses back in 2024. So Bodhana has already eclipsed Yuj, even if she were to lose her last round. We'll see if she goes on to become, world number 37. What are 14-year-olds doing right now? I cannot believe what Yuj is doing, but we are seeing the next group of I can't believes, Ethan Guo here, trying to match Linji and stay in a tie for second with 1 game to go. Big advantage. Here comes the E-pawn. It's looking very, very good for our American friend.
Yeah, so E7, knight C7 right now. Guo is looking for a nice way to convert this. E7 does it, and a rough just throws in towel and says the game is done. Very, very important victory by Eden, and this means they are fighting for the last spot in the knockout tournament.
Keep your head up, Arav. You're a good player. And here we go. Look at the final. Not the final. It looks like the final. How can you have 9 points and the tournament not be over? That's because your name is Bodhana. Ethan and Linji, though, it all comes down to the last round. Hardy, Reyaansh, and Arav, you're still playing for a chunk of change. Okay, this everybody gets at least $100, but you're still fighting for a little bit of money. $100. What does that buy these days? Like 5 Snickers bars? The price of chocolate we need to talk about in a future edition of this. But let's go to the chess games. Obviously, you guys know the ones that we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on Ethan Guo. He's black in that middle game. Unfortunately, he has to play Bodhana.
Oh,
that's
no.
not good news.
Oh, this is really bad. But if you want to have a deep run tomorrow and you want to make it for the knockouts, you have to show your A game. So why don't you do it against the tournament player who has already made it to the final? So for Ethan, this is a very, very important game. And E5 is just played by Bodhana. But what else do we see on the other boards? We are seeing some Sicilian or a Lapin. It's really difficult to tell because the action is changing so quickly.
Yeah. I'm actually going to leave it at the 3-board setup here just because the left game and the middle game, we need to focus on the 2 players playing black. That is going to have the implications for who advances tomorrow. Both these players are tied. They might actually be doing a little bit of board spotting, but with only 3+1, there's not a ton of time. And there we see that middle game. Bodhana, I mean, she's not playing for nothing. She's already secured her spot tomorrow, but 10 out of 10, I hope she does it because in all future years, you can imagine archers, we're going to be here in 2047. We're going to be thinking, has anybody ever gone 10-0? And we're going to remember this moment, okay? And she's going to make our life
I will
easy.
be here in 2047, to be honest. But yeah, that's a nice thought, really.
But you can see, even 2 years ago, I couldn't remember that Yuj went 8-2. I thought he might have gone 9-1. But when somebody goes 10 out of 10, you tend to remember that, right? Like the 72 Miami Dolphins. Chat, did I get the year right? I don't know. I think it might have been 1972. And sorry for the American football reference. That's going to win me no fans in international chat. But let's get back to chess. We have knight versus bishop. Bodhana has only been worse, I think, once or twice today. She has not even been worse for very many games. And she's slightly worse in this position with the black rooks coordinating a little better than her rooks.
I think actually her toughest game was in round 1 when she was in trouble after the opening phase, and then she managed to somehow turn around and then gain the momentum, and the rest, as they say, is history. But here, Ethan in this clutch game is playing very impressive chess so far, so he is doing slightly better. And just to give you an update of what's going on in the other game, where Zhu is playing against Arbalia, it's about a balanced game in the Sicilian. Everything could, of course, happen. So let's maybe stay to this central game. And as soon as there are going to be some major developments, we are going to give you updates who is going to make it to either the knockout stage directly, or potentially there might be also a tiebreak necessary.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on everything. That pawn on E5, strength or weakness? I'm going to go weakness because it's on the same color as the bishop and it's all kind of out there by himself, and you don't really want to play F4 to support it. I don't know if that's going to be the determining factor in the game, but that E5 pawn has me a little bit worried as white in the long run.
Yeah, A5. So Eden is being very, very careful. So he is slowly advancing his queenside pawns because everything for white is kind of protected. Queen f4 marks as a mistake by Bodhana. I don't really know. I think she wants to play something like rook c1, trade off the rooks. Otherwise, sitting and doing nothing is not really the cup of tea of anyone. So she's right now trying to figure out, is rook c1 a move? And this is exactly what she does.
Yeah, now part of her training for this was playing Magnus Carlsen 2 weeks ago. She played him in a live game in London, her very first game ever. I encouraged them to talk. You know, Bodhana had just done a school project on the very famous 1986 Hand of God goal by Diego Maradona. And you know, Magnus loves soccer. I thought that they would talk about soccer. She was so nervous, they didn't say a word. So, but it was good training. Once you've played Magnus, how hard could the ChessKid Youth Championship be? But she's been defending the whole game. I love that the rooks got off the board for her, though. Even though the black queen is dominant, she no longer has to face these rooks on the second rank and on the C file. So she's getting a little closer to equality, but she's going to put her king on E2 and then maybe play B3, queen C4. I don't know, just kind of an idea. That
Yeah, I
E pawn
have
is
a
becoming
feeling
weak.
that you're right that indeed it feels that this is a progress for Bodhana, and also that Ethan has missed something slightly because this rook on the 7th rank was feeling quite menacing, and here it's just a queen. But still, now Bodhana apparently has to make the only move to stay in the game, which is to the engine. That's the move B3. Is it a very obvious move? I'm not really sure, but apparently Black in some lines is threatening to play G5. I don't really understand the move, but this is what the engine is saying. So Bodhana right now is in trouble.
She is, if black sees this breakthrough. Wow, the slider bar, really not a fan, but black has to find this double attack, queen D5. Not the easiest move to play because your queen has to go
I'm sorry
back.
to interrupt you, Mike. I'm sorry to interrupt you because it seems that there's major development in the game of Aram Sarbala against Lin Zhu. I just wanted to say to you is that their Zhu is losing apparently with the black color. He is also in the situation where he desperately needs to fight for the victory because they are sharing right now the second place together with Ethan Guo. And at the moment, he is losing. So for Ethan, maybe a draw already could be a good result against Bodhana. But the funny thing is, Mike, he doesn't know it.
Yeah, I doubt he has time to look over at the other boards. You know, problem here for we're not looking at we are looking at the board. I'm sorry. The problem for Lin Zhu is not just that he's got rook for 2 minors, but that those 2 minors have taken up outposts there on the left side of your screen. And he's really passive. Even the queen is resulting in passivity because she has to block the A pawn. Sometimes the rooks can fight when there's open files, but these white minor pieces are just hopping all over the position. Now, he did manage to coordinate the rooks, so there's that. If he could get the rook to B1 and activate the queen on any square. I love this pawn sacrifice because now the queen's going to swing around. Exactly what I mentioned, but he got forked. He got forked in the process.
That's it. He essentially for Ethan Guo to make it to the knockout stage, he just needs a draw. That's it. He doesn't need anything else. And just as he did it, Bodhana made a mistake. She played queen e3, queen a1, queen e2, queen b1. The game continues, and Bodhana is in severe time scramble.
Okay, let's zoom in on Bodhana. Let's get the player games. Look, this is the only game that matters. Doesn't matter so much for Bodhana. She's punched her ticket. Ethan must only make a draw, and he probably doesn't know that. The players have checked the clock times. Ethan's got 26 seconds. Bodhana's got 15 seconds. So advantage Ethan, but Bodhana is incredibly quick.
Yeah, so Black is trying to make some progress, but with the bishop on f8 being so passive, he doesn't really see anything. Okay, bishop b4. He's trying to activate the bishop. Knight e4. It seems that Bodhana is making some progress, Mike. Now the knight on e4 is feeling more active. Also, white can try to mix some g4 ideas, improve the king, then play g3. Bodhana is recovering.
I do want to mention any queen trade looks okay for white because the A pawn will become a liability. The black bishop's not really able to attack the kingside pawn. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Queen trades are probably not the worst thing in the world for white, but queen b2 was missed. The computer loved the move.
Draw.
They got in the same position 3 times, I believe, even though maybe they weren't consecutive, but that's not how the chess rule reads. A draw. He puts his shirt over his mouth. He's probably checking the standings right now. Let's keep it on the player cams. Actually, we're not going to. I was going to see if he recognized that he advanced to the tomorrow's semifinals by looking at the player cams. We do have 1 game remaining, and we should show some love to Reyaansh. Reyaansh, thank you for being an Iron Man and playing both events. And you finished with 4 points from the 8 games that you played. And Hardy, our youngest player, finished with 3 points. Not a bad result. Hardy, you still qualify to play in this event 3 more years. And there we see our winner, Bodhana, 9.5 out of 10. What an unbelievable score. Thanks to her draw, we can calculate her performance rating. They famously are not calculatable when you have a perfect score. So thank you for that, Bodhana. We'll be able to write that up. She's got that ChessKid shirt on. And you know what? We're not done with Bodhana because let's take a look at the final standings there. I'm going to tease a little something there. But there we go, 9.5 points. Ethan with a big comeback and will advance till tomorrow. He is going to play in the semifinals as well. He will play some Sunday chess. Linji is the hard luck third place person. I really like Linji as a player and as a person, but he unfortunately finishes in third. We have a big tie for fourth. Reyaansh, Hardy, and Arav all played their hearts out, and they finish in a big tie for fourth. So they will split fourth through sixth place prize money, and we were so happy to have them play. Okay, we are going to go to a short break, but I'm also going to mention that our matchups tomorrow in the semifinals, we are going to have Super Teat, our winner of our early group, play Ethan Guo, the second place finisher in this group. And we're going to have Bodhana, our number 1 finisher, play against Ashwanth, our number 2 finisher. What a performance by Bodhana today. We are going to talk to her. Chat, throw some questions in for the world's youngest WIM. Ask her about her game with Magnus. Ask her about the Hand of God goal in 1986. Ask her whatever you want. We're going to take some of your questions. When we come back from break, we get to talk with the lady of the hour, the queen of ChessKid, Bodhana Sivananda. Here we have Women's International Master Bodhana Sivananda against Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen in their first ever chess game. 5+0. Good luck to you both. And to close out our long day of the chess world, I am very happy to introduce that we have our winner, our dominant winner of Group B of the 2026 ChessKid Youth Championship. We're going to have a chat with the world's youngest ever WIM, Bodhana Sivanandan. Bodhana, welcome to the big show.
Yeah, thank you for the invite.
I just want to ask you about the last 2 weeks of chess. You got to play Magnus, beat Danny Wrench, beat Gotham Chess, get the admiration of several premiership footballers. You played chess in the UK House of Parliament. You gained 100 points at your OTB chess tournament in Austria, and you just scored 9.5 out of 10 here in the ChessKid Youth Championship. Is this the best 2 weeks in your chess career?
Yeah, I think the best 2 weeks I can remember, but I have won like a few tournaments, international tournaments as well. Like, I think the other one would be like my first international tournament. I came second in both tournaments I played, so that was also really memorable, but this one was like also really significant for me.
Yeah, to list all your accomplishments would take a while. Archers, I don't think you've met Bodhana before. What would you like to ask her?
Hey, Bodhana, of course, congratulations with your stellar performance. I have one very critical question, and I keep wondering because we saw you are playing some games with Magnus, obviously. And when you play against some of the greatest players in the history of chess, you absorb some energy. And today we witnessed quite a lot of end games that you played. Is this something that comes directly from your encounters with Magnus, or you've been working a lot on end games recently? Was this part of your tournament strategy, or it just happened like that? Because I noticed that you were very good at it.
It wasn't really a part of the tournament strategy, but I just tend to go into endgames a lot. But I think maybe I should try and play more middle game and opening positions, but it's not really something that I've gotten recently. It's just something I've been doing for a long time, and it's become like a habit now, kind of.
Now, Bodhana, I believe this is the third year in a row you've played at this event. And to the best of my knowledge, correct me because I have old man brain, but I don't think you've ever qualified to the Sunday knockout until this year. What kind of experience did you use from your previous events that allowed you to do so well today?
Actually, I don't even remember previous events or anything from best and win.
Okay, well, we'll have to go back and research that, but I don't think we've ever seen you play in the Sunday knockout, so we're very much looking forward to that. Before we get to the chat questions, Archers, do you have anything else you want to ask Bodhana?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the choice to play the London system. Is this your favorite choice lately? Because also this is something I've been studying myself recently. Do you feel like it was part of your strategy for this particular tournament, or you just enjoy the system as a whole?
It wasn't really a strategy because this London system I find is quite easy to play, or it's easy to learn. So, and it's a system, so you have like a set of moves you have to play or you can play in order to reach it. So I find it quite easy to play, so I just do it in loads of online tournaments.
And just a final question about today's event. Yuj Erdemus, who's now world number 37, he won this event 2 years ago. He only scored 8 out of 10. You scored 9.5 out of 10, which brings me to one of the questions from one of our chat viewers. Ben H01 said, did you want to get 10 out of 10 once you realized you were close? Or were you just happy to get first and you were just cruising, playing game after game? Was there any moment in your mind where you're like, 10 out of 10, that'd be pretty cool?
I mean, like, obviously going into the last game I was on 9 out of 9, so I wanted to win and get 10 out of 10, but obviously winning the tournament is also a good thing, but winning with full score is even better.
Yeah, you definitely boosted your Chess.com blitz rating in the process. And Archers, I think we have one more question from chat.
Yeah, the question is from Best Chess Player 312. Were you nervous when you played against Magnus Carlsen, and what went through your head during the game?
I think I was quite nervous playing against him, but I was just kind of trying to think about the game and not worry about who I was playing, but I think I was struggling to do that a lot.
And far be it for me to put words in your mouth, but I was behind the camera for that game. Neither of you said a single word after the initial greeting. So it was the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm guessing you'll get a chance to play him again. But Bodhana, before you do, you've got a big semifinal matchup tomorrow. I know you've played a ton of chess in the last week, so we're going to let you get some rest in advance of your semifinal game against Ashwant Kaushik. We've also got Super Teat facing off against Ethan Guo. So Bodhana, amazing result today, 9.5 out of 10. You are officially the queen of ChessKid this weekend. So we will see you tomorrow. Get some rest, okay?
Okay, thank you.
It was great to have her on. By the way, she was sitting in a secret lab chair that was used during the SEC finals. So maybe that boosts your rating points a little, knowing that you sat in a chair that a super grandmaster has sat in. Arthur's got a big game. Archer's, you got a gamer's chair there. But how can you wrap up this Group B, Archers?
I think it was pretty much dominated, obviously, by Bodhana, and who knows how the tournament would have went if she was in trouble in the round one game, and if she had lost it, but still she recovered. Maybe she was nervous, and after that, it just felt like she was totally in control. Her endgame skills very often were superior to the opponents. And overall, it just felt that both players who made it to the knockouts, they deserved it. And also, I would like to say a huge thank you to all the other 4 participants who did not make it. It was, for some of them, their very first event at the global stage. And this is something we also discussed during the Group A tournament, is that for many kids, this is not only their very first attempt, like they say, to play at the global stage in front of a big audience, but eventually they do become world-class players. And we already had some players in the older section like Andy Woodward, Yezer Domosh, and Abhimanyu Mishra. These names don't really require any introduction. So for the dear viewers, I would advise you, look at these names who played today and remember them and check them out, obviously, after some time, because I'm pretty sure they're going to grow and become fantastic players.
Well said. Names to remember and a day to remember for Bodhana. 9.5 out of 10. She will play tomorrow. You're not done with us. We're going to see you tomorrow, probably at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to coordinate with all 4 families just to make sure. But go ahead and put it on your calendars. The semifinals and finals, they're short matches of 4 games and 6 games. So they're going to be, every game is going to matter so much. And we're going to see if Super Teat, Bodhana, Ethan, and Ashwat, who's going to be crowned the 2026 ChessKid Youth Under 13 champion. So we will see you in approximately 18 hours for the finals right here on twitch.tv/chess. Thank you, Archers. Thank you to my team. Get some rest. We'll see everybody tomorrow.